Grab your rods and tackle box, folks, as we dive into the wild world of fishing. Get ready for some laughs, some fish stories, and a touch of chaos as we wade into the deep waters of fishing wisdom. Our guides on this trip are a know-it-all, a guy who desperately needs a haircut, and a man named Sam. In this podcast, this motley crew shares their knowledge, their latest fishing antics, and probably get into more trouble than they bargained for. It's a podcast as unpredictable as the sport of fishing. If you love fishing, then this is the place to be, because in this podcast, every catch is a big one. Every story is a keeper, and the only thing more legendary than the tales is the trio delivering them. Welcome to the Bait Tank.
Hey, welcome into the Bait Tank podcast, guys. My name is Anthony. Today, we are talking about a couple of different things. As you can see, I am not in my office. I am outside. We are at Chester Frost Park in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We are at a place called, or at a meet and greet called The Gathering. It's about catfishing specifically. There's a ton of YouTubers here, or there were. A lot of them left because of the rain, but it's been an all-weekend thing. I do have a couple of the fellows that are here with me. We're going to talk. They're going to chime in on tonight's topic. But just a shout out to Daryl from Trophy Seekers Outdoors for getting this thing started. There's a lot of other people, a lot of other sponsors have been helping with it too. It's definitely a hoot. It's been fun for sure. A lot of fish caught this year compared to last year. But yeah, the weather was definitely not the best, but you can't control that part. But bringing everybody together, talking about fishing, experiencing fishing, sharing it together, that's what it's all about. And it fits perfectly with tonight's topic, which is going to be the importance of sharing our sport. Joining me are my two co-hosts. Give me just a second to get them pulled up. We got Sam and we got Zach. Welcome in, guys. Hope you're doing fantastic. Y'all say something that the sound's still good, because I can't hear you if you're saying anything.
Something.
All right, there we go. Shout out to some people coming in here. Big Mike's in the house. Wabash Nate is in the house. Mrs. Viking. Hello, Amanda. Hope you're doing fantastic. I'm sure my wife's in here chilling out as well. Mike Sampson's in the house. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. Joining me right now is Travis Young.
Hello, everyone.
He is not a YouTuber per se, but he is a catfisherman, and he is here. And he has been hanging out, trying to catch some fish. He did catch one today.
Caught one about 8 or 10 pounds.
The guy behind me that you can't see in the dark back there, he caught one that was 30-something pounds. 33 last night. There he is right there, Catfish Regulators. He is a YouTuber, but yeah, so we're here with some people talking about the topic. But like I said, we just shout out to Daryl and Russell and all those guys for helping this thing get set up, hosting it and whatnot. Bobcat from Bobcat Outdoors, John Alfred from Catfish Hunters TV, and
Steve Douglas from Monster Rod Holders.
Yep, Russell Mulligan from
Trophy Seekers.
He's Trophy Seekers also. Yep, and then they all did the barbecue today. Super good, tons of prizes.
Catfish Hunters TV also done barbecue.
Yep.
John Alfred.
Yep, it was a good show for sure. If you didn't show up, you missed out. That's for sure.
I definitely missed out this year.
You did.
Yeah, my invite must have gotten lost in the mail, because first I'm hearing about this.
Not going to say anything. Sam hasn't started his YouTube channel yet, so maybe we should all give him a push.
Look,
to go forward and start that.
I just got the all clear from my doctors, and
nice.
There is a trout tournament coming up in a couple weeks. So.
Film it, man. Film it for sure.
That is not what I was getting at right now. Absolutely not. Having no cameras allowed, because that's how fishing stories are made. You know, it's this big. It was the biggest perch I've ever seen. At 20 pounds at least, would have been a state record, but I had to throw that thing back.
So for the sake of keeping the stories alive, no filming. I see how it is, man.
No, I'm bringing cameras.
But yeah, Big Mike caught a 42-pounder. Let me back this up a little bit so we're actually all in the frame.
Did you catch any fish?
I did not. But I also didn't fish the whole weekend. My daughter did not cooperate, and we ended up having to.
Oh, I was gonna say, I am not surprised at all.
I see how it is, man.
Yeah.
I see how it is.
Well, I see your wife catching fish all the time, but
like I said, I see how it is. But yeah,
and we may jump up and run for a rod here in a little while.
They are fishing currently, so it's possible that I'll turn around and might see a fish on the show tonight as well. We also have a special guest that might show up if they get here in time. They were actually a visitor on one of our shows a couple weeks back, but they got married today, so they might be popping up to say hello and whatnot. So hopefully they'll show up. If not, oh well. Like I said, we're talking about sharing our sport.
Who's what happens?
It's specifically the importance of sharing our sport.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I'm gonna start with Sam, since he's actually on the screen right now. Sam,
Too much pressure.
why don't you explain to me, sir, why you think sharing our sport's important?
Wow, man, put me right on the point here. I'm gonna say it's a good way to bond with friends. It's a great way to take and get back from the land. It's a bonding experience. Like I can go on, like I can go like environmental, like got to keep the species under control. But really, like to me, it's not really. It's about having that one thing in common. Like my best memories as a teenager is cracking open a 6-pack with my cousin. I mean, this is root beer, of course, and just throwing lines in the water and just talking about our week and stuff.
I got you. Off the Hook Outdoors, welcome in. What's going on? We're talking about the sharing, the importance of sharing our sport. Zach, you still here? Your turn, sir. Let me drag you over here. Why don't you tell me why you think it's important to share our sport?
Because it's fun.
That's the main reason. What other sport is acceptable where you have a beer on you besides bowling? That doesn't count.
Besides bowling. Yeah, no kidding.
So
But
fair, they have a bar within walking distance.
right. But that's your only answer, Zach?
No, I like getting new people into it. It's fun to see somebody's face that's never caught a big fish, especially being a catfisherman, and watching them hook their first really big fish. Like Travis had that experience with me one night down at Lock City.
I did.
We may have lost that big fish, but it was a big fish. And I bet you had a blast with that one, didn't you, Travis?
I did. I had a great time with that. I just wish we could have landed it that night.
Oh, yeah, that'd have been a good 30, 40-pound fish the way it had that rod boat over. So
Well, let me add some salt to that wound. I got a story about Travis here for you guys. He went fishing. He went fishing with Mrs. Yak and I a couple weeks ago.
Last Saturday night.
Yep, last Saturday night. So we were out fishing, and it was the second night the Northern Lights were supposed to be able to be seen from here. So we picked a spot and showed up there, and we were gonna fish it and whatever. All of a sudden, we get swamped in by a ton of cars. But Travis is playing with my daughter Josie, and his rod goes off, and he's like, Anthony, you go get that rod. You go get that rod. And I didn't know about this till after the fact, but I landed that fish. It was 30 pounds on the nose. To which he tells me that would have been my PB. My PB is only 9 pounds.
And to pour more salt on this wound, I'll pour it myself. It was the first time a fish had ever been caught on that rod.
First fish on his rod. Tripled his PB. And he told me to take it. It's not like I stole it from him. He told me to take it.
It's kind of hard when I have a young one in my arms.
But I felt terrible. I absolutely felt terrible.
No, he didn't.
I was gonna say, but like in a year or so, it's gonna be like both of you guys are gonna be laughing about it.
Oh yeah. And Cavish Regulator said, "Hey, Zach, he sees how it is. He didn't come out to see him this year. He sees how it is."
I'll come see you next year, Rex.
Zach did not make it to the gathering this year. He was here last year, and he was here the year before as well, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. That's how I actually met Zach the first time.
Missed.
Yep.
Yes, first gathering is when I met Zach and Big Skip and you and several other YouTubers. And then last year, met more YouTubers, came to the gathering. And then this year, met even more people that I've never seen or have seen their channels, but never met in person. So it's a great way to meet people in the community or other YouTubers that enjoy the sport of catfishing.
You can learn a lot too, or see a lot of different things. Because
And sometimes, if you don't know how to tie a certain rig, someone here knows how to, and will show you.
yep, so it's a great way to learn stuff, especially if you're new. And like the whole point of the gathering at first was just to get YouTubers together, but then it turned into getting other people exposed to the sport of catfishing. It's been growing a lot. Like I said, this is the third year they've done it. This year wasn't quite as big as last year, I don't think,
Due to weather
and whatnot.
predictions.
Yeah,
Possibly.
let's say it said it was supposed to thunderstorm all weekend, and here we are, the second to last day, and it still hasn't thunderstormed yet. It's drizzled a little bit here and there, but
Wind blew.
the wind blew. That's about it.
Did you
Scared
see
some people
Regulator's
off.
last comment, Anthony?
I did not. What?
Look at Regulator's last comment.
Yeah. So, was that last year or the first year that you lost that rod, Zach?
First year. First year.
Zach was a big time shark fisherman, for those who don't know. So
Oh,
he
yeah.
brought his shark fishing rod and reel up here. Absolute favorite rod, favorite reel, hoping to catch into a trophy Tennessee River blue cat. And his rod holder failed him. So somewhere out in the middle of Lake Chickamauga, there is a Penn squall reel, if I remember correctly, on a Carnage rod. So if you like shark fishing,
A pin spin fisher 10,000.
my bad, sorry, wrong reel. But still, if you like shark fishing, there's a rod out here in Lake Chickamauga waiting for you to find it, guys.
And a pin Carnage 2 12 foot.
And there's probably a rod in the exact spot that you lost that one right now.
Did you lose a rod today too?
No. I broke a rod last night, but I did not lose a rod today.
Okay.
No, when I said there's a rod in the same place, camped out in a rod holder on the bank.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, there's quite a few rods over here today. There's 5 in front of me and 6 behind me, I think. 11 rods out. You would think that if a fish came within 50 yards of this place, they get a hook in their face. There's a lot of rods out here. And there was a lot more out here last year. And there was a lot more actually yesterday even. Like I said, a lot of people have left.
And if you would come to these camp spots where we're at, there's probably 500 yards of bank access, and you would probably see 40 rods at one time.
Something like that, yeah.
It's ridiculous, but we have them scattered at different depths, different distances out. So it's just a smorgasbord of baits out for them.
It is. Some people have been using some flavored skipjack. Has been regular skipjack, half bluegill, live bluegill,
Shad, flavored shad.
literally everything you think of. I think the only thing that's not been out here is chicken livers. I haven't seen any chicken livers this year.
No, I haven't seen any chicken breast either.
It's no chicken this year.
Is
Apparently it's an anti-chicken year.
Is any of the sauce out there?
No, there's not. It's I left it at the house. So it's not here yet.
It's forbidden.
Sorry if I seem distracted. My corridors keep going across the front. The fish tank's right there. So, like, the corridors go across, and my ADHD is like, ooh, fish.
That's the reason I keep looking around, checking these rods out.
You never know. That's for sure.
Zach knows quite well about this spot, about how quick a takedown can happen.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Hush, Amanda.
But yeah, so Travis, why don't you, I'm going to zoom in on you, sir.
Oh, thanks.
Why don't you tell us why you think sharing the sport's important?
Sharing the sport of catfishing is a great way to learn how to catfish, and also while you're got your rods out fishing, you can catch bait fish or other things that may need to be done while keeping an eye on. But the sharing of it, you can teach someone that has never caught a fish before in their life the proper way to tie a hook, put on the correct sinkers, get the correct rigging, outfit, rod, reel that you may need to get that quality fish that you're looking for. And the camaraderie that you get through other YouTubers or people that are around is just you can't beat it. It's something that it'll last in your memory for a lifetime.
I would definitely agree with that last statement. It's definitely something that can last a lifetime. The friendships you make, the memories from losing rods or losing big fish, it's definitely something that sticks with you for sure.
And something like pouring salt in a wound from someone. Viking knows, I know, Jack even knows. Sam, I'm sure he's had a salt poured a time or two on him. So, but it's just getting together with your friends, your family, and having a great time, getting out in the outdoors and enjoying what God has created for us.
And you make a good point there too. Like I met you the first gathering, and the second gathering is when we really started fishing together. But like we probably would have never met if we were just on a Facebook group.
No,
Right? There was no reason to. We don't fish the same waters typically because you live a couple hours away.
I live an hour and 15 minutes away from Chattanooga. I'm 3 hours from Zach.
So I mean,
and
there's
no telling how far I am from Sam.
14 hours minimum.
3-day drive.
So a lot of the people I've met through this actually have been really good friends of mine, or have become really good friends of mine, and
I mean, me and you, Anthony, didn't meet till the first gathering.
that is true.
Why did it just delete all the comments?
Do what, Amanda?
It said, it deleted all the comments on her phone.
I have no idea why I did that.
Well, that's weird.
Is it Nightbot deleting them all?
It is. I didn't think Nightbot was on. I'll have to fix that later.
It says it, but it's still there. It deleted regulators.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to fix that later. I don't know. Anyway.
It's attacking regs right now.
It's got a mind of its own.
Sorry.
Pardon the plane for a second. Like I said, we're going to hear all kinds of crazy noises today. Being outside.
I mean, we met the first gathering and we fished together how much since then? Good bit.
You have to wait a sec, Zach. I can't hear you.
They got a plane going over.
All right, try it again.
It's really shiny tonight, Sam.
What?
You heard that.
I said Anthony's head's really shiny tonight, ain't it?
I see how it is. Hey, what were you saying, Zach?
I said, we met at the first gathering and look how much we fished together.
Not enough still, but yeah.
I mean, even though you haven't caught that many catfish with me, I mean,
I was going to say, does it count as fishing if he doesn't catch fish?
Anthony was there kayaking.
It's called fishing, not catching. That's all I can say, all right?
Anthony was kayaking and I was fishing. That's how that went.
Oh, okay.
It is what it is. I will say the first time I went fishing with Zach, we didn't catch jack squat. So
I did.
No, the first time we all blanked. It was the second time we went down there where you had that tournament, you started catching left and right.
And we got hits that night, but we didn't hook up to anything.
Shane
Right.
caught fish,
Not the first time, no. Shayna caught fish the third time they came down.
and then when we went up there, I caught fish.
Yeah.
Yep. For those who are listening in, the lady in the background, that is Mrs. Viking, a.k.a. Amanda. She fishes as well. So, Amanda, while you're there, hey, I'm going to sucker you into this too. Why don't you share? Let me put you, Zach, turn the camera back on. I'm going to put it on the screen here. We're going to have her talk about why it's important to share the sport of fishing.
She doesn't do on camera.
Well, fine. She can do it. She can do an audio. Let me hear it.
I don't know. I've just now started into the fishing, but I think it's because I'm not big into it like the rest of you guys are, but I think I get just as excited and more determined when I get, when they hook onto it and then you lose it and you're like, nope, I'm going back after that one I just lost. I'm determined I'm going to get that guy because it was big. I know it was big.
Exactly.
So I guess it's like it's fun, and I mean, to me, it's fun sometimes, and then it can be boring because I guess you're not catching anything, but it's not called catching; it's called fishing. So
Exactly.
But I find it exciting and a learning process. You learn from watching all of you guys, from someone who don't know jack squat about
Well-
any of it.
Well, let me just ask you a question. If it wasn't for the fact that Zach exposed you to it, would you have even attempted it in the first place?
Yeah, because I've been fishing way before I've even met Zach. Like I've been deep sea fishing.
But
Okay,
you
I got you.
Caliber of like catfishing, like I do.
No,
Okay.
mine was like I said, mine was more on the ocean versus the river.
I got you. But yeah, I know Shayna, my wife, she didn't really like fishing when she and I first met, and then I started catching more fish, started catching bigger fish. Went catfishing with her specifically, where she could read a book while we fished,
That's pretty
and I let her reel the fish in. And from that point on, now I can't get her to quit touching the reels. So, she discovered she enjoyed it too. But if it wasn't for me going trying to get her to go with me, there's a good chance she wouldn't be fishing now. So
You probably though will never catch me touching a fish.
that's fine.
No.
Shayna's just now starting to hook her baits.
I don't even do that.
We're working on it. We're working on it.
Baby steps, one step at a
You
time.
got a mouse in your pocket because there's no wheel on that one.
And also sharing the community sport of catfishing or any type of fishing. If you go bluegill fishing, sometimes you can sit and catch them all day long and have fun. Bass fishing, it's hit and miss where they're at maybe. Walleye, muskie, any sport fish like that. Also, with catfishing, it is a slow sport at times.
Can be.
You can set 8-10 hours and not have a rod bite or a fish bite. But then it could be every 3 minutes to 10 minutes, you have a boom, boom, boom fish on.
Yep, it's completely. There's a lot of variables for sure. But there's two things you'll always remember. You'll always remember the day you caught a ton of fish, and you'll always remember the day you didn't catch jack squat no matter what you did. The difference is to make sure that on those days where you don't catch jack squat, you try to learn something to make the next trip better. So it's a learning experience, a learning curve for sure for everybody. But doing group fishing trips or having a friend go with you or whatever, that helps you stay motivated enough to get that stuff figured out. And just like anything else, you get better over time. You'll learn where the fish habits are, when they spawn, when they don't spawn, where they are, what time of year, whether they like certain baits or not. And obviously all that varies from location to location too. But having that friend or that teacher or mentor or whatever can make a huge difference in your success.
Yeah, because don't ever think you know everything about the sport, because you don't.
No.
I think I need a new teacher. Mine's a butthead.
I can't help that part.
Thanks for the self-confidence.
I never said you were a bad teacher, just that you were a butthead.
Can be.
Excuse me. If we get attacked by raccoons, just so you guys know,
They are
pretty
out and about here.
they're pretty thick here today. So you might hear some chittering or you see some stuff get knocked over.
But we have to chase them off.
But I heard it is my impression. I heard some stories from last night that Big Mike had one in his truck and had to fight it to get away. That Matt was down here from Wannabe Outdoors and had 4 or 5 that raided his tent.
We had coolers last night that they broke into. Sour cream, shredded cheese, a tub of butter was all eaten by raccoons. Bait coolers, handles chewed off of them. It's an adventure when you go out fishing.
For sure.
You never know what will happen.
They turned savage last night, didn't they?
They came back.
They were savages, yes.
Yeah, they definitely did not take it easy. That's for sure. And then, like I said, my daughter didn't cooperate, so we packed up last night. My daughter had spilled a bunch of pretzels and cheese and crackers and stuff, and there was 4 or 5 of them. As I'm carrying stuff to the truck, I turn around, see another shadow dart across the campsite. Had to grab something on the way by. It was just constant drive-bys while I was packing stuff. It was insane. There's a reason why they're all big and muscular over here. They can rob you.
Yes.
As you're putting bait on, you're catching raccoons instead of fish.
Hey, man, I told my wife, I said that when if we reel the rods in to stop fishing for the day or take a break or whatever, make sure you throw the bait in the water, because that's the last thing I want to do is lose a rod because a raccoon carried it away.
Dude.
Hey, then that would be the new story instead of Zach's.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, like how many people
how
can
did
say
you
they
lose your
caught
rod?
a?
Well, a raccoon took off with it.
Yeah. I'll let Zach keep the glory on that for a couple more years.
I don't want to keep the glory on that anymore. 5 rods and 2 fawns in 1 year is enough.
Wait, what were they calling it? The catfish or the rod snatcher 3000 or something like that?
No, that thing they tried to make to try to catch it. But yeah, that was definitely a mess. But like I said, you're never gonna forget that moment. You'll never forget that rod going down. You'll never forget you seeing the drag across the grass. You'll never forget you diving into the lake and crushing your head on a rock. Oh wait, that was an added part.
I would have if Skip wouldn't have grabbed me by the nape of my neck.
I was very sick that night. All I remember hearing is, "Oh, Amanda's gonna kill you," and I went back to sleep.
Yeah,
Hillbilly Hondo's in the house. Said good evening, Anthony, Mrs. Yak, and Baby Yak, chilling on the panel. Yeah, we got Zach, Sam, and Travis Young over here talking about the importance of sharing the sport. Now, I've let them talk about it, so I'm gonna talk for a minute, I guess. But for me, sharing the sport is important because of fishery health. One of the biggest things about the area that we live in here in Tennessee is it's known as a trophy catfish fishery. There are people that come from all over the East Coast, up north, down south, out west, that come here specifically to try to catch 60-plus pound catfish. And that's another part of this gathering. You know, we know that. So the biggest thing is to promote not only the healthy catch and release of these bigger fish, but also just to expand the enjoyment and the awareness of it. You know, Chickamauga Lake is actually known primarily by the common population, or populace, if you will, as being a trophy bass fishing lake. So there was a lot of a negative stigma for a long time for other species of fish because of that. So when stuff like this happened, or the Catfish Conference up in Louisville happens every year, you're spreading out this awareness, this excitement, this different perspective on these other species, in particular catfish, obviously, for these couple of things I mentioned. But it just helps the fishery thrive, because you're not going to have so many people that are just want to kill them every time they see them. You know, they're actually maybe considering letting go of some of the bigger fish just to keep that population going. You know, the state of Tennessee, the regulation is you can't keep more than, I think it's more than 1 fish over 32 inches, which helps with that too. It's kind of like the slot limits for, like in Florida and Alabama on the redfish, where they have to be between a certain inch to a certain inch. Those are put in place to keep those fisheries thriving.
And some of the other fisheries, like out in Missouri, Indiana, Illinois, like for Lake of the Ozarks or Truman Lake, there's slot limits on those lakes where you can keep, say, 5 fish under 24 inches and 1 over 32. But anything between those, you have to turn loose, and to keep the fish, fish population healthy, and also let them thrive more.
But
for reproduction of their that's gene.
But that keeps the healthy desired genes in the pool for sure. And there's been several studies over the years proving all this stuff. I mean, it's nothing new. You know, they've been doing this for forever. And there's other states and other places now that are getting more strict and getting on the boat with some of this other stuff, and other species in particular. I know a lot of them are getting more specific, even on stuff like bow fishing, where they're starting to consider putting limits on stuff to keep from just having piles of dead fish everywhere. And it's within reason, obviously, right? The places that have the invasive species, such as like snakehead or the big head carp or the silver carp, Asian carp, grass carp, all those species. A lot of those are a worry and are a concern. So obviously, those are kind of kill on sight in most places still.
And overpopulation of them.
And overpopulation of them too. But then you have places like one of the big things here in Tennessee, also for Dale Hollow Lake specifically, is known as a trophy mirror carp fishery across the world. And they're working on. There's actually a group that's working on getting regulations put there to help keep that fishery alive too. A lot of some of these fisheries, some of these regulations, some people think are overkill, but for a lot of places, some of those species would just be gone if everybody just went willy nilly with it. Even here with species such as like crappie and panfish and stuff, there's a limit for a reason. They know so many people are going to fish a year. They know that so many people are going to want to go after this desired species just based on how popular a species is and whatnot. And it's all there to protect the species and protect the fishery. So, yeah, and that's why all that research is done. That's why all the stuff's put in place. That's why all those Facebook groups are made. It's just to help get information out there for everybody. And that's probably the second biggest. I said it was the biggest, but I think it's the second biggest reason why it's important to share the sport. I agree with everybody else here that the fun of it, the teaching of other people, that's the more enjoyable part of it for sure, and probably my favorite part. I have one story in particular about a gentleman I worked with. His name was Mel, and he when he turned 21 years old, he moved out of his parents' house. Decided one day he was going to be a fisherman. He went and spent, I think he told me he spent like $300 something on top of the line fishing gear at the time, whatnot. Went out, didn't catch jack squat. Immediately threw the gear in the garbage and just didn't touch it again. So when I met this guy, he was 63 years old, and I worked with him for 2 years. And right before he retired, he told me about how he hated fishing, how he only went one time and all that stuff. So I paid for his license. I bought him another rod. I told him just start off at the beginning. We'll start with bluegill fishing. I have not talked to this man in several years. I don't know if he's even still alive, but I know that when he retired, he was fishing almost every day. That to me, that's probably my favorite story about teaching somebody to fish, other than my wife and my kid. My daughter's just now starting to pick up fishing rod and start reeling, so we're hoping to start working with her soon. Obviously, my wife's been fishing for a while now. She's got the current household record of 77 pounds on a blue cat she caught a couple months ago, and it's definitely been a long, not necessarily a long road because it's only been a few years, but it's just she's come a long ways from not liking fishing at all to only reading a book while she was sitting while I fished, and now she's catching fish bigger than me on a regular basis. So, not that that's hard. I know Sam and Zach are going to chime in here in a minute. But that's not hard, but just part of it.
And some fisheries do not have the population of catfish, bluegill, bass, or whatever species you're going for. The population is not there, so it is a lot harder to catch them. And you can get very frustrated at that point in time.
For sure.
Of not catching. But you have to keep going. You have to keep trying, and eventually it all pans out for you.
Sorry, I got a youngin' trying not to go to sleep. I forgot to mute it.
I got you. It's all good. Todd Projects, welcome in. Hondo finally made it back to the house. Glad he made it back to the house. Yeah, it's. But fishing in general, like you said, it's a learning process. But having meetups like The Gathering, having Facebook groups where you talk to people, having YouTube videos that teach you stuff or give you out information, or just reading articles or magazines, the reason all that stuff exists is for our benefit as fishermen, flat out, as anglers. You were talking about how certain species don't have the populations as like other places. One of the species I want to get better at catching is walleye. there is a decent population of them here in Lake Chickamauga and in Lake Nickajack. But there is jack squat about information on how to find them or catch them. So I've only ever caught a few kind of randomly, and it is what it is. But eventually,
I can give you some points later, man.
do what?
I can give you some pointers on walleye later. That's my target.
Oh, and that's fine. I can read stuff, but you know, you know just as well as I do what might work in Michigan isn't going to necessarily work here in Tennessee. You know?
No, what works in Michigan works everywhere.
I'm sorry. Say it again.
What works in Michigan works everywhere. We are master anglers up here.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, my nose.
But yeah.
Refute that.
I'm about to put my phone back on the aquarium because I keep looking over there because I get distracted. The lights aren't off yet.
Dude, if you do that, I won't lie. I've been working like a dog. If you put it on an aquarium, I'm gonna fall asleep.
Let's not do that.
Like,
we still got another hour and 20 minutes to go, guys. Come on, man. Stay on track. No, there's a decent chance that if it does start raining or something, we may end up cutting the show short. So it is a possibility, but it is not the plan. We do plan on going the full time. But
I mean,
Sam, you're really the only one that hasn't chimed in with a salt in the wound story yet. You wanna elaborate on a couple for us?
No.
Why not?
Because I'm trying to think, I don't really have one.
You don't really have one.
Like, all right, I kind of do. So, talking about walleye, I was like 17, 18. I was fishing for suckers, so I just had like these spawn bags that we were left over from trout camp, and we're casting behind this paper factory. They have like dam chutes, hydro chutes, and I get there, and my first cast, I just throw this spawn bag in the chutes and have a bite or what I think, and I was like, dang it, I'm snagged up, reel it in. Next thing you know, my line just goes right back to where that chute is. I'm like, all right, so it's clearly a fish. We did this like 20 times at least. So it just felt like a log. So I got salty, and I just tightened my drag and just horsed them in. And I had like 20-pound test. So up here, you're not gonna find too many fish that can break that. So I reeled them in, and it is the biggest walleye I've ever caught. But it was 4 hours out of season.
4 hours out of season.
Yeah, so and I'm not kidding. Like, I had this walleye's head above my head, and his tail was hitting my belt. I was like,
that's a good sized walleye for sure.
Yeah, I was like, I looked at my dad. It's like, all right, I'm gonna rehook him. And this was my first cast of the day. Like, I'm gonna rehook him. You're gonna give me some Burger King. I'm gonna camp out here till midnight. And he made me throw my fish back. I'm a little salty about that still.
I'll put on the aquarium that way Sam can see well.
Yeah. No, I'm trying. If you notice, I'm like looking at like the right side of my desk now.
Can't see much in it. It's cloudy.
I did notice it's pretty LG.
And there's my cat fighting.
Normally, when we go out fishing, like even if it's raining or something like that, I just try to make the best out of it. And you can, like, if I can kind of tell by like, oh, so and so is going to be here, I don't like them. Instead of, this is going to make me sound like an alcoholic. I'm not, I promise. But
that's how it always starts. Is I promise I'm not an alcoholic.
Yeah, I promise. I've only been drinking since I was like 14. I don't know. Anyway, I grew up in a redneck town. Like, I could drink beer before I could drink whiskey, like mixed drinks. Like, complete role reversal. But it's just like a rite of passage where I'm from. But if I can, like, oh, so and so is going to be there. I don't like them. I'm bringing Jameson. I'm not bringing Bud or Coors or whatever. Beer just happens to be in the fridge. I'm bringing whiskey now. Like, I'm gonna make myself have a good time.
Jeez.
So it's just like I can kind of judge things, and
I don't
you know
necessarily think that's the.
my sense of humor. Like if something bad happens, like when I lost my foot, when I checked it, which is probably like one of the worst things that could happen to somebody is losing a limb. When I was like checked into the hospital and they're like, "What can we help you for?" I was like, "Well, honey, this happened in February. It's like I'm having a hard time with my New Year's resolution. If you could just take like 20, 25 pounds off, like I'm figuring the left leg, I don't really need that." Like, you know, I was just cracking jokes the entire time.
Now you don't have enough leg.
Yeah, I can't really do that now. And actually, I remember what was it? A couple months ago, we were talking about shark fishing, and Zach was like, "Oh yeah, the sharks just bump you in the legs and stuff." Like, no, I will never do that. I can't afford that.
Well, the shark would bump you in the leg.
The leg.
The leg, not leg.
I only have one of those now. Like, I had knee surgery, and that was harder than heck to get around. Like, that sucked. That really
I'm sure.
sucked, which is why I still have a bed in here, because the bathroom's like 6 feet away.
Right.
I was like the little engine that could. Like, my first night, I was like, all right, toilet's 12 feet. Like, I had this thing mapped out. Like, do I really need to? But yeah, anyways. So, back on topic, like, I just tried it. I don't really have any salty stories. Like, I've never, and I'm knocking out of wood here. Like, I've never dropped a tackle box in the water. I've never lost my fishing pole in the water. I've come close a few times. I have come close. Never fallen in the water by accident. Never went overboard. And I'm like knocking on my desk while I'm saying this, because I'm about to go on about. Although the fishing pole and the tackles aren't mine, so I don't care. Although I might have to swim back.
I got you. There's been a noisy truck for a second. Just hang on a second. Possibly have another visitor going to hop on the show for a minute.
I will say, when his headlight hits you in the head, it's almost blinding. Like, you wax.
My head is not quite that shiny, okay? I'm sorry, guys.
All right, Zach, is it that shiny?
Very shiny.
See?
We took the turtle wax to it earlier.
Do what, Zach?
Did you polish the thing tonight? I mean,
yeah, turtle wax, you know.
Yeah, turtle wax and a shine cloth works wonders.
Like a little buffer pad, maybe?
Yeah.
Amanda said wax on, wax off.
Right.
I'm going to step out for a second.
All right, well, here, put me back on full screen for a second for everybody to see this. This is quite a treat.
All right, wait.
For those who don't remember, we had an episode talking about jug fishing a couple weeks ago, and Lisa and Randy Swain were the guests. However, as of today, they are actually, step over here in the light, guys. They are actually hitched, so they are officially Lisa and Randy Swain. So congratulations to them.
Hey, y'all.
Glad they can make it. While you guys are here, I'm going to suck you into the topic. Why is it so important to share the sport of fishing?
Because if we don't, we're going to lose our sport, and there will be no sport after us. If we don't bring our youth into it, there's nobody to continue on. But if we don't have if us old people don't have the support of the young people, and the young people aren't involved in it, there won't be any sport, because with the more people we've got helping us keep this going, the longer it's going to keep going.
It's true.
If kids aren't fishing, first of all, they need to be fishing, because if they love to fish, they ain't got no money to get in trouble doing anything else.
That's true.
But
that is true.
But they won't. When we start battling to keep if only us old people battled to keep this sport going, ain't enough of us to keep the sport going. So we've got to have the guys that are your generation, and the generation below that, and the generation below that. You get a bunch of 25-year-olds out here that love to fish, and our sport will continue because we've got the extra support be there.
You have anything to add to that, Miss Lisa?
No, he said it.
All right. Also, we were talking about salt in the wound stories that we talk about the fact that with fishing, there's going to be two things you always remember. You always remember the best day you ever had fishing, and then the worst day you ever had fishing. We would like to hear y'all stories of both the best and the worst days y'all had fishing,
Oh,
as long as they're PG-13.
oh. Let's see. My best day was when I caught my 74-pounder.
Which, how long ago was that at this point?
That was
March 1st.
March 3rd.
So both her and Mrs. Yak, my wife Shayna, have broke 70 pounds this year already, which is absolutely insane. But just another testament to the fishery here being a trophy fishery for sure. What about you, sir? What was your best day fishing?
My best day fishing was her catching that 74 pounder.
Well, that was no fun. You can't share the same story like that.
Hey, when I was growing up, I was off. My dad always told me, said, "Son, I'd rather see you catch fish than I have."
You know, my dad told me that a lot when I was a kid too.
And I thought, you're nuts, old man. But watching her catch that fish, if you watch the video, you see just how excited I got over that fish. I was probably, she doesn't show stuff like that. I was probably more excited than she was.
That was on your channel, correct?
Yes.
Mhm.
For those who want to check it out, I know there's a short of it. There's also, you can actually watch the live stream and watch the whole entire event of it. But Burrito Catfish Lady.
Catfishing.
Sorry, Burrito Catfishing Lady. Literally spell like burrito, the food.
Nope.
Nope, it's burrito with an E on the end.
I am sorry. Burrito with an E on the end. Catfishing Lady. On YouTube. You can find that short with it. I guarantee you it's easy to find.
It's actually a video. There's not a... We did
Yeah.
the video.
For some reason, I thought you guys did it on live, caught it on the live stream too.
We
I
did,
thought-
but I cut it into a video.
I got you. So yeah, there is a video on there for y'all to check it out. It is a huge fish. As you can see, she is a little lady. That fish made her look even littler. It was a big old fish.
Okay. You want my second best fish?
Sure, I'll take you to second best story.
Okay. The day I turned 16 years old, me and my dad were my dad kept telling me we're going to get up and go to work in the morning. We're going to fence, and we had big farms, so we were going to work on the farm.
Mhm.
We got up the next morning, and he said, let's run down here to Round Lick, which is a creek right down the road from the house.
Mhm.
We went down there, and on the way down, run up on a bunch of deer, and I mean, they were 10 feet from the truck. And we're going down the road, and me and him fished. And I don't know whether we caught anything or not, but I remember that day, spending the day with my dad. And it was the best birthday that I've ever had.
I got you.
And I remember that day, for some reason, I remember that day better than any others, but I'll never forget that day.
I got you. So what about your worst day of fishing? The ones you'll always forget just because of how bad it was. Or something bad happened, or something weird happened, or whatever.
Bass fishing practice for a tournament.
Okay.
And we had a bad storm come up, and one of the guys that I run around with didn't come in to the dock. We had to go find him,
Oh, that's not cool.
and lightning hit him.
Hit him at the boat.
Well, we don't know, but he died.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And that's the worst day.
Sure.
Worst day
Obviously, yeah.
of fishing I've ever had. Yeah, and I know I can tell you where we were at, where we found him, within 10 feet.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah, that would definitely be a worst day of fishing for sure.
Yeah.
What about you, Miss Lisa?
I don't have a worst day.
That's what we want to hear. No bad days of fishing. Only catching.
I don't have a
Never
bad day.
skunking.
I mean, unless you want to count almost losing my rod, but thanks to you, I didn't lose it.
That was pretty funny. I'll never forget that one either. We were fishing a tournament with them a couple months ago, and we were suspend drifting for fish while we were anchor fishing out the back of the boat. And Shane went, Anthony. I look over, and this rod holder they had completely completely snapped free, and I just happened to barely get my hand over the edge and grab the rod to get in the boat, because yeah, she would have lost her fairly nice catfishing rod. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, it's a Mad Cat. It was a Mad Cat Ghost, right?
Cat, White Ghost.
Yeah, one of her favorite rods. But yeah, that was pretty insane. It's solid stainless steel rod holder. and just completely snapped in half. Absolutely nuts. It does.
Yeah.
But reiterating the fact of sharing the sport. I mean, the stories like this you can't make up. I mean, you could, I guess, if you thought really hard, but a lot of that stuff you just experience it, and you'll always remember it and never forget it, whether the good, the bad, or the really, really ugly. In the case of your story, but it's still something that you can't experience once you go out there and fish. And yeah, you can self-learn. There's enough information out there to self-learn, but having somebody share it with you will help you get past the learning curve, give you a support system for it, and obviously be able to help you out on your mistakes if you can't figure out something.
Hey, if you want to fish with somebody that you can learn from, this man right here, he is not afraid to tell you anything he knows about fishing, about catfishing or whatever. He shares information freely. I mean, he took it the first time we fished together. We went out and he told us where to go. He said, "This is what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, where we're going to do it." And we were fishing King of the Tennessee.
Yep.
And he walked right in and said, "This is it." And we ended up the day with 75 pounds in 3 fish.
Yep.
And we caught probably, we had.
No. We only had 56 pounds. The next place up had 75 pounds. It was 5 fish, 75 pounds.
Okay.
Sorry, not 3, 5 fish.
But, we still ended up with.
We had 20-something fish.
Yeah.
Something like that. It was
We had
nuts.
a great day. We had a great day.
But yeah, but
call him, and if you got a boat, he'll fish with you. If you ain't got a boat, he'll fish with you. He ain't scared of nothing. I don't reckon. Nobody. I don't reckon.
no, not really. Takes a lot to scare me, I guess. But and they're talking me up. But I mean, even the information I shared with them was shared with me. I mean, I learned some of it, obviously, but I had mentors too. So
somebody learned it somewhere.
Exactly. But if I hadn't have experienced it myself, because I don't have a boat, if I hadn't been with somebody on a boat, I wouldn't have known that stuff. I would have had some general idea, sure, and maybe we'd have figured it out. But knowing that ahead of time allowed us to get on fish faster and allowed us to actually do well in that tournament.
We had a great time.
Oh yeah,
We done good not having a depth finder.
that too. I just had a topographical map.
We read maps.
Yep.
We went back to old school reading maps, and hey,
We got a fish.
we still caught fish.
Yep.
You hear that, Zach and Sam? I'm actually a halfway decent fisherman. They said.
I heard it, but I haven't
I
seen
don't know
it.
how much I've.
I mean, you can what is it?
Yeah.
They can't do teach. From what
Apparently, until I
understand
prove it to
is
them.
You're really good at showing people how to fish.
Hey, I've got video with that boy catching fish.
Photoshop.
So,
Photoshop, exactly.
Yeah. Anthony's really good at photoshopping.
Yeah, I joked with Lisa when she caught that 74-pounder that it was photoshopped, just because of how big it was compared to her. But she definitely caught that fish, and it was real. And then Shayna catching one like a week later just solidified the fact that I just may not be as good at fishing as I thought I was.
Amanda yelled out of the bedroom, said it's CGI.
okay,
Maybe. We'll see.
we got another chance coming up.
We do. We're actually fishing with them. Actually, Shayna's fishing with you on the 22nd of June.
June 22nd.
And then we're all fishing together on the 29th of June.
Yep.
So it'll be, you'll definitely see them more on the channel.
And we're going to be me and you are going to be fishing.
Don't know when we're doing that day. We haven't decided that yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tim and I are going to be doing a tournament together at some point.
But we're going to be We're going out friends fishing.
Yep.
Probably this next weekend.
Yep. So there will be some potential proof or potential CGI. Y'all never know.
Well, I was thinking about coming up there next weekend and seeing if you wanted to fish next weekend, Anthony.
Well, I might be able to do one day, but one of them days they claimed it already. So we'll have to talk about it and figure it out.
Bro.
But yeah, well, thanks for stopping in, guys. Again, congratulations on getting married. Glad you guys finally tied the knot.
Thank you.
Was a beautiful wedding.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us. We were
And
excited to be there.
doing your part. I appreciate it.
Sure. We'll see for sure if you still take me a couple weeks when you get to see the footage, but we'll see.
It don't matter.
Yeah.
It was the effort and the thought.
I tried. I appreciate it.
Yep.
But yeah. So again, Mr. and Mrs. Randy Swain, thank you again for coming in for a minute.
Yep.
Thanks for swinging by.
We're gonna drop out of here.
I do not blame you. Thanks for taking a chance to stop by though, especially on your honeymoon night.
Yep.
Go enjoy, have fun, and we'll talk to you guys again later.
That's it. Y'all take care. Glad to see you.
Thanks again, guys. Congratulations. Sounds good.
I'm glad you again.
But yeah, if y'all didn't catch that episode with them, they took me jug fishing a while back, so we did an episode about alternative methods of catching catfish, and it was it's either 2 or 3 episodes ago, I can't remember, but it was definitely a good show. I enjoyed it a lot. Enjoyed fishing it a lot, but it worked out really good. So 205, welcome in. I think I saw Mike Sampson in here also. If I hadn't said hello to him, hello.
Yeah,
I actually got.
Mike Sampson was here today for the
I'm about to say,
game.
so was 205. I actually got to meet both of them in person. I knew of them and I've seen them on live streams, but I got to meet them again. Going back to the fact of, hey, some of these people you don't meet just through Facebook groups. You have to, see them in person, go to these meet and greets, go to Facebook stuff. Y'all are still on camera, just so you know. Sam, I got you pulled back up. Zach still has it on the aquarium. If you guys want to fall asleep, you can stare at that corner of the screen. It's very relaxing looking. But yeah, no, it's doing this stuff, doing these meet and greets makes a huge difference and gives you some huge opportunities in terms of gaining knowledge, learning new stuff, seeing new things. I mean, there's constantly small companies making new gear, stuff like that. You get to see a lot of that too.
And when you get to meet other people in a sport fishery, catfishing, bass fishing, whatever, crappie fishing. However, if you meet up with some of these people, you may fish their home waters, which our home waters here would be Chickamauga, the Tennessee River chain.
Yep.
The Swains, they fish Fort Loudon,
Yep.
Knoxville area, Watts Bar.
That's the northern end of the Tennessee chains, but it's different. They
And you go and, with Zach, he is on the Tennessee River chain, but he is in the state of Alabama.
the southern end. Yep.
So you meet these people, and you can meet up with them and go and fish a total different scenery than your home water.
Yep.
And your home waters, you're bank fishing, and when you go, say, on the northern end of Tennessee River with the Swains, it may be better in a boat.
Yep.
And down at in Alabama on the southern end, you may be dam fishing at a hydroelectric plant. May be your better fishing.
Whereas Chickamauga, a lot of times the bank fishing is almost as good as the boat fishing, just because the lake itself is different. The Chickamauga Lake on average is shallower than Watts Bar and Nickajack.
Wheeler Wilson.
And Wheeler and Wilson. Do what?
Wheeler averages around 16 feet.
So Wheeler and Chickamauga are similar.
Yeah.
But Nickajack averages significantly deeper. I can't remember off the top of my head.
So there is some 100-foot holes on the Nickajack Lake.
Right, but even the whole lake overall, even that lake
You're
is
running about 40 to 75 foot.
on average, probably. Yeah, something like that. It's because it's got some shallow flats, but it's a long and slender lake compared to Chickamauga and Wheeler, which are wider, flatter lakes.
And you have more ledge drop-offs on the Nickajack part.
Because it's longer and skinnier, yeah.
Than you do on the Chickamauga
Yep.
system.
But I mean, you can use all the basic information and be like, oh, hey, I'm gonna fish the creek channel. Hey, I'm gonna fish the river channel. All that good stuff. But that all changes based on different things and whatnot, from the lake you're fishing and whatnot. And like you said, you're fishing a new fishery. You're experiencing a different area of water. You're learning something new. You might gain a piece of knowledge that, I might go down and fish Wheeler and try something that works completely differently than I think it would on Chickamauga, but then try on Chickamauga and it works great. Or same with like fishing in Michigan for bass. There's certain areas of Michigan that I lived at as a kid that I would do certain techniques for bass, and I've tried them down here, didn't do jack squat, but then there's been things I've learned here I took up there and started slaying them. You never know.
It'll all go hand in hand.
Yep. Pardon the truck for a moment as they're leaving. Thanks again for them coming in. Congrats again on them getting married. That's awesome. They're good people, and I appreciate everything they do, and I appreciate the kind words too, for sure. But quick as I get out of here, talk a little bit more, because their truck's kind of noisy. But yeah, so the importance of sharing the sport. In case you didn't gather by now, the majority of what everybody's talked about has been the fact that A, you have a chance to learn something new. And the second thing is you get to make good friends. The third thing is that the fishery gets protected and gets healthier. And I think that if you just keep those three things in mind, it solidifies the fact that, yes, it is important to show the fishery. Now, or show the sport of fishing, rather. Now, I'm not going to say there's never a con, all right? So one of the big things about having a lake publicized as a certain thing is all of a sudden there's an influx of people coming in and fishing all the spots, right? It's a potential con because, yes, it does happen and it can be a problem, but by exposing yourself to all these extra sources of knowledge, by learning new things, fishing with new people, all that stuff, you can learn and realize that just because somebody's in one spot doesn't mean the fish are only in that spot. So there's that too. So it's not really, I mean, it's kind of a con, especially if you're in a water that maybe has limited bank space. Obviously, if everybody's fishing the only 3 bank spaces available in a certain area, well, then yeah, obviously that's kind of a pain. Kind of like the other night, we went to 15 different spots, and they were just completely loaded. It was the first day. It was last weekend. I'm talking about where we pulled off on this random pull off. You're like, here's some access. Let's try it. Well, it just happened to be the spot that everybody was taking pictures of the northern lights. So
Right.
we went from having 2 cars, there was one other gentleman fishing on one end of this pull off, and we were on the other, to
30 minutes of 100 cars.
where we had to, I literally had to have Shayna and Travis block traffic so I could get our truck out, so I could get Josie to bed on a halfway decent time. Because at 10:30 they were not moving because the lights hadn't even started yet. They kept pushing back the time when the lights would show, and then supposedly actually they said they never showed.
Right.
Yeah, because it was only a G3 or whatever, so it never even actually showed for anybody could see it.
And it was a very cloudy night too.
For sure. But I would have never considered that pull off even if it wasn't for the fact that, one, there was people in all the other spots, which again, that's the con, right? I couldn't fish the spots I wanted to fish. But going back to what Randy was talking about, using maps, I realized that pull off had a point coming off of it. And I was like, let's try it. There's a point and a creek channel. And we ended up catching a 30-pound fish. Now, granted, it was supposed to be your fish, but
more salt to the wound.
More salt to the wound. But we'll never forget about it. It's this thing we got blocked in by cars. So that was bad. I caught Travis's fish, which was bad, but I caught a 30-pound fish, which was awesome. So it
was a pro and a con.
So it's just and nothing wrong with exploring new water, obviously either.
No.
And those 15 spots, if you'd asked me 3 years ago if I fished any of them, I could probably tell you I fished 3 of those spots. And that was it, because I was really big on I'm only going to this spot because it's comfortable. I can get there. I can be on the water. I can be by myself, whatever. Or, hey, it's big enough for me to take my wife and my kid, or, I can take my dog, stuff like that. So I had a couple of specific spots that, I went there just because I wouldn't be bothered. But then as things happened, people started getting into fishing more because once COVID happened, there was a large influx of people that started fishing.
Yes. Because everything was shut down.
Right. So
and food sources were getting scarce, so
people were fishing more.
Took to fishing for a meal for their families.
So that was definitely a big introduction of people into fishing. Was that whole you can't go out if you're gonna go, you have to go outside if you're gonna be anywhere close to anybody. Blah 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 blah. Social distancing. Blah 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 blah. However you want to describe it or explain it, there's no denying the fact that it put a lot of people outside, and a lot of people that went outside went into fishing. And if you look at every industry of fishing, you can see that. Obviously, I come from a kayaking background too. There was a large influx of people buying kayaks, which is funny now because now there's once you buy a kayak, you kind of keep it till it breaks typically, right? So unless you have a lot of money, you want to keep upgrading every year, I guess. But right. A lot of people, they'll keep it till it breaks or doesn't work anymore. So actually, honestly, right now, if you guys are out there thinking about kayak fishing, This is really the time to do it because the used market is huge. You had this large influx of people coming in buying all these kayaks up, and then you had this large push by all these companies that keep pushing out these new products, these new innovative things, trying to compete with some of the bigger companies. Like Hobie's probably one of the, let's just be honest here, it's kind of like the Cadillac of the kayak world, right?
New canoes.
Well, new canoe is actually on the cheaper end. If you look at the pricing between a new canoe and a Hobie, you can do literally everything that you can do with a Hobie for a fraction of the price on a new canoe. It might take a little bit of rigging, but you could do that. But a lot of these other companies like Native, there's a large influx of people doing.
Over any of them.
Do what now?
I prefer my new canoe over any of the other ones.
Well, and that's fine. Everybody's gonna have their preferences, right? But I mean, just saying, all these companies like Native did the Titan X was one of their new models this year. It addressed a lot of the problems for people that use motors on their kayaks, which was it made the boat top heavy when you start putting those 100 amp hour batteries on there. So they did this thing where they had the battery cargo slot basically be below the water line. So stuff like that. I mean, all these companies made these big pushes to try to get this new innovative thing that everybody wanted. And so because of that, you have everybody buying these new kayaks, but then they have to get rid of their old kayaks. So the market's absolutely flooded right now with old used kayaks.
And you can get them at a cheap price.
You can get them at a really good deal. Like I got mine at a steal anyway because the guy was trying to get rid of it to get an upgraded Hobie because he was a bass tournament fisherman specifically. I got a really good deal just because he wanted it out of his garage. But you can get just as good of a deal or even a better deal now on the same setup or even a better setup right now currently because of the way the market, because it's so flooded. But again, that knowledge of that little bit, just that large, what was it? How about the large influx of people coming out, making fishing harder, I guess, because spots are harder or more scarce, right?
Right.
But that amount of people coming in pushed innovation in almost all categories. Boats got better or cheaper, either one, which there's a line there between better and cheaper, obviously, where it goes in the poor direction too, right? But kayak industry, almost all those boats got better. Fishing gear and rods and stuff. There's so many companies out of fishing gear and fishing rods that I don't think anybody could actually sit there and test them all unless you're like a millionaire or a billionaire because there's just so much stuff put out there now.
Right.
New baits, new rods, new reels, new lines. I mean, it's just everybody's trying to put out the next best thing.
The market is flooded with new product,
which is both good and bad. It's good for us as consumers because we can experience new things. It's bad for us as consumers because our wallets are like going empty all the time because we're buying all this new stuff.
Right.
But
then you got me. I upgraded my kayak and I still haven't took it on the water yet.
That's true. But that situation in particular is just a you thing, man. But
that's a me having no way to haul it thing.
I mean, that's fair. But having that opportunity to experience those new things, though, puts a bigger importance on information being out there, right? Because I forget, I read an article earlier, I forget how many millions of people in just the United States started fishing last year. But it was only 18% of the people that went fishing last year that fished by themselves on the regular. All of them had friends.
Yes.
It
would be close to 1 million or more. Well, it would be over 1 million.
It was well over 1 million. It was like I think it was like 45 million or 454 million. It could have been 454 million, I don't think. But it was a lot of people that went fishing last year, and the fact that only 18% of them fished by themselves tells you that it's definitely a group activity,
right?
In some form or fashion.
In some states, when you get a big influence of fishermen or fishing people, anglers in general, the revenue for that state
goes up.
But some states actually put money back into their fisheries or their wildlife management areas, where some states say, we just got more money.
But it makes a big difference. And that all that revenue / tax dollars / whatever, once that starts going in, that's when those people those groups of people in those areas have the bigger influence, right? If somebody is there and all of a sudden the state gets an extra $1 million that year, okay, well, where did we get that money? How can we get it again? That's when I start talking to people. And that's where you can actually put request out for certain regulations. It's where you can have certain rules changed, or say something really bad happens and all of a sudden people stop fishing an area for a while and one of the populations of a certain species goes out of whack. Well, then again, they'll see that, or they'll find it when they do all their biological studies for their fisheries, and that's where regulations change. All this stuff is completely influenced by how many people actually partake in the sport of fishing. But again, as Randy was stating earlier, the younger generations are the ones that need to make the push now at this point, because the older generations, let's just be honest, Travis, you're getting older. I'm getting older. There's days where we don't want to move at all, so we may or may not even go fishing that day. It just happens. It's blasphemy, I know, but there's some days where we get up and we just want to go back to sleep.
But if you have children, grandchildren, get them, and if you're going to take them fishing, make sure they're going to enjoy that sport.
Yep.
And if they enjoy it, take them more often. Get them familiarized with all species of fishing. And let them choose which species they want to go after more. And just let them stay involved and teach them the right way of conservations and the conservation laws that states have to make sure that everything stays in those guidelines. And it's up to our youth, like Randy said, to keep the sport of fishing or hunting going.
Yep. And obviously what we're talking about goes for literally any kind of sport or activity or hobby. Obviously our focus is on fishing here, because that's what we enjoy. But it literally goes for anything. You got to have
hunting stories. I have a bunch of salty hunting stories.
Well, if you want to share a hunting story, you're more than welcome to.
Dude,
and that's fine.
I got charged by a bear once. Like, I have tons of hunting stories.
Charged by a bear. You probably should tell us that one now. I mean, you've sparked my curiosity.
Okay, so one of the properties that I hunt, there's a large bear problem, like all around this 100 acres that like all the neighbors just clear cut everything. So most of the wildlife just kind of, went to the wooded areas. And one trail camera picture, I have 13 different bear.
Say 13?
Yes. And
that's a lot of bear.
There's sows, there's cubs, there's sows, there's big boys. And there's this one bear, I nicknamed him Jordan because he's got a white basketball spot on his back hip, on his butt. Him and I, we've had interactions for years, probably 3 years at this point. And he's a good bear. He's around 400.
That is a big bear.
And I mean, he was a big bear when I first saw him, and then he just never went away because, we have bean fields and stuff like that out there. And he's getting food, so no reason.
Right.
And, for reference, I drive a Honda Element. So it's essentially just a box on wheels. But I've loaded 3 different deer in this car at one time. It's my, if a CSI crew ever goes in there, it's gonna glow with all, I clean it all out, I mop it every spring, and I tarps down, so I'm not messy with it. But I know I just know there's stuff in there. Doesn't matter.
You went off track. Where's the bear?
Yeah. All right, the bear. So shut up, Zach.
We talked about this. We talked about this in the intro. We went off the rail. Let's go. What about the bear?
All right, so the bear. I was taking all my rakes out, and I was changing SD cards. I was just touching up on the this food plot, and I kicked Jordan off the food plot when I first got there, and I'm talking on the phone, have my earbuds in, and next, we're talking, and for reference, this is a very remote area. There's cell signal on top of the hill, but on the bottom of the hill, there's none. It takes about 3 hours for police to get there. We had a break-in, so very remote. I always bring a weapon on me because, stay strapped or get clapped. This is in the middle of July, so it's about 90 degrees. And bears, like I have a bear deterrent weapon that I bring with me. I nicknamed him Thumper. He's a little shotgun about yay big. He's half an inch away from being illegal. But anyway, I didn't bring him because bear in July normally they're like, oh yeah, we got plenty of food. People's not on the menu today. That's more or less a spring thing you got to worry about. And I unload all my gear from the back of my car, and I just hear this behind me, and I'm like, crap. And the person I was on the phone with was, what was that? I was like, that's bad news. And I like slowly turn around, and here's Jordan. He's about 30 yards away from me, which is very too close. And you can just tell by how he's posturing. He's like, I'm like, man, I'm on the menu tonight. And my holster has a double retention, so it makes a popping noise whenever you draw it. So I'm like slowly, and he's like, he was standing on like his back, and he's just kind of like, going back and forth on the trail, just kind of like, what's the best way to charge this thing?
Sure.
And I'm like looking in the back, I'm like, there's no way, like I'm gimped up. There is just no way I'm gonna be able to jump in the back of this car and be able to close it with this bear. So I get my hand on my pistol, and I don't like to brag, but I'm very, very like confident with my tools that I bring into the woods.
Sure.
I've had a lot of training. As soon as I popped that retention, the bear, it was like, that was the starting pistol. He charged at me, I drew, and I mag dumped. And it was almost like the Matrix. I was carrying it was called the HK USP 45.
Wait, so he was dodging all the bullets?
No, like it felt like that. Like it was in slow motion, but the last round, it was an 8-round magazine.
Yeah.
The last round, I swear to God, I could like see like hit his head because his head was just down. And I didn't know it at the time, but wherever a bear's head is pointed, that's the way their body will run. So because I hit him in the head, he jerked his head and he just ran. I'm not kidding. We measured it out. It was 11 feet away from me, back into the woods. And I'm still on the phone when all this is happening, by the way. So all they heard was just like grunting,
gunshots,
thud, and just boom, 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 boom. And I jump in the back of the car. Now this is 90 degrees, July, very remote. I like closed up the car, and I like, this is all I have. And I'm carrying a 45, which is just going to make a bear mad. It's not going to do anything. And I like look down, and they're like out the back window, and there's my car keys. I'm like,
your car keys are outside the car? Wow.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm not going out there. Like, there's no way. So I stayed in this car for like an hour and a half before reinforcements came. And we paced everything, and they brought a much larger weapon to deal with this possible issue. And we like paced it off, and there's like blood spray. Like, it's a head wound. Like any head wound on any animal is gonna bleed a ton.
Yeah.
And they're like, you want to track it? I'm pretty sure you killed it. I was like, no, I didn't. Like, I'm pretty sure I know exactly where I shot it. Like, I know. It's just mad. It's cranky.
It's cranky.
And with an adrenalized bear, like, even like you could have a 50 cal. Like, there's been reports like with black bears absolutely having no heart and still be able to run like 300 yards and just, or maul their attacker. Like, it's not unheard of. So I'm like, yeah, no, we're gonna just monitor these trail cameras, and if we have to do a body search, we'll deal with that then. That night, Jordan was back on there, and like, you know it's him because of that white spot on his butt, and he is missing an ear.
You got his ear.
I got his ear.
Jeez.
Which I did look for that the next day. I'm not gonna lie. Didn't find it. That would have been a cool trophy. Like, I would have went to the taxidermist, like, look, I want this mounted. I don't care how much it costs, but I want this mounted.
That's funny.
But I swore I was never actually gonna hunt bear, but I have put in. He's still alive, and this happened like 3 years ago. This bear is gonna die of old age any day. Or like, if he no, he's still alive. We had trail camera photos of him last month. So he's like 8 years old. Like his whole body is like just graying up, and he is still missing that ear. And I just kind of
What was that movie we were talking about earlier with the bald bear?
The
Great
The
Outdoors.
Great Outdoors.
Yeah.
It sounds like something from the Great Outdoors right now.
It does, except for I didn't shoot him with a lamp.
I mean, that's fair. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
when it comes to hunting stories, I have the worst luck ever.
I got you.
I got one more. It might be a little long-winded story, but I've been kind of
Well,
out of it.
You're good. Just hold that thought for a second, though. I mean, and for those that are listening, we're just going back and reiterating the fact that, you know, these stories, if he'd have known, hey, he was using the information that he was given to know that, hey, there shouldn't be a problem in July, and it still happened, right?
Yeah, I was complacent. Like I kicked that bear off. I've kicked that bear off the land plenty of times. Like that has never
Right.
been an issue. He would just woke up on the wrong side of the pine. I don't know.
Right.
pine
But
needles.
even with fishing, anything can happen. But having that information available or learning it from somebody, hearing it about, like you said, those reports of the bear having basically no heart and so charging that far. I mean, having that knowledge that there's the potential for that can better prepare you for both handling situations better, but also for success, both on and off the water or in the woods or whatever.
And now, like, I refuse to go into, like, I have like, I come prepared now. Like, it doesn't matter the time of year. Like, I always have, thumper with me, and I always have a much larger caliber pistol.
And I'm assuming you do better job of keeping your keys where you can reach them too.
So I have 2 sets now.
One that sits in the car always.
Yep. It's hidden in there.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you, man.
It's like emergency bottles of water in there, and like MRE, and you know.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you at all for that, for sure.
I got out of that car. I drank like a gallon of water. I may as well have been peeing and drinking at the same time. Like it was terrible.
Right.
I'm not even half kidding. The person who picked me up, they had like a gallon of like water because they knew I was going to be thirsty, and this much in the bottom was left. I just chugged everything. Like I got sick. I drank so much water.
Right. So why don't you go and tell the second story?
All right. Second story is also something where I got too comfortable. I've never, and this is, you always hear people like, "Oh yeah, I shot a deer, but I couldn't find it." It's a very common thing. It's never happened to me, ever. Like I said, I'm very comfortable with the hardware I use. I'm mostly an archer. I prefer archery over rifles when it comes to hunting.
Sam's over here with some humble brags, just polishing his nails on his knuckles.
Oh yeah, like I was. It's never happened to me. Opening day of bow season, I come up and there's this.
Oh, hey! Interrupt that thought. Hang on, we might have a fish on here, guys. Might have something else to watch on the show here. Let me turn this around for you guys, quick, just in case it happens.
Yeah, was on that crab. You did. Well, he slacked it up.
He did slack it up. Hang on. Switching my camera
If he
here.
pulls it again, I'm gonna reel down on him. It's getting slacker and slacker.
Yeah, he's on there, I think. Is he there, Travis?
I don't think he's there. No. Let it sit.
False alarm. False alarm. Sorry about that, Sam.
Oh no, you're good. I was definitely more excited than my story.
We'll let it sit for a minute and see if maybe he comes back to bite again. It might happen, it might not. We'll have to see. But yeah.
He just kept coming in and coming in. Mm-hmm. That's the reason I just went ahead and reeled down. Are you good?
All right, so yeah, we put you back up here. Let's hear the rest of the story. So this is the opening day of archery season, you said.
Opening day of archery season. Their first light. This is not the biggest deer, but not the smallest deer. Definitely one worth cutting a tag on.
Sure.
You know, let an arrow fly. I see my fletching disappear. Like, I know it's a good hit. Literally an hour and a half later, here comes another. I think he was a 9 or a 10 point. I couldn't tell. I couldn't see half of his rack. I was like, all right, this is going to be the shortest season because I only ever buy 2 tags a year. Shot, same thing happened. I was like, that one looked a little high, but it should be good. We tracked miles. Well, I didn't because I couldn't walk that.
Was it this past season?
No, it wasn't. This past season was the luckiest season I've ever had. I went hunting twice, and I shot 3 deer.
Yeah, that's pretty insane.
Yeah, and it was a 7, 8, and 9 point, and the 9 point had a 27-inch spread. So at the furthest part of the antlers was over 2 feet.
That's crazy. But back to the first story.
Yeah, we tracked and couldn't find any of these deer.
You shot 2 and you couldn't find either of them?
Nope. Both of them were misses. We had them both on trail camera, and 2 days later, so they were fine and well. Both of them were about 3 inches too high. One of my family members, opening day of rifle season, kaboom. We didn't know because this was like a month and a half apart.
Yeah.
And, you know, they were been fighting in that month, so the antlers, you know, broken up. Definitely not good looking anymore.
Sure.
Yeah. And
Thank you.
he was cleaning out the insides and like, huh. Now I run a very particular broadhead. They're called Toxic. It basically like it's 6 razor blades of symbols, and it has like a biohazard sign, like the cutting holes. They're really cool. He's like, that's weird. And we were like looking at it. I was like, that's George. I shot George, and I couldn't finish it. So yeah, like both of the deer I missed got harvested that year by my family members. And
smooth.
It, you know, it was salt, and I was just too overconfident. I was like, yeah, it's a 25-yard shot. No,
Overshot.
20. Oh yeah, that's a 30-yard shot. No, it was 25. Like I was just too confident. I didn't range it. I was just too complacent, and I feel really bad when it comes to hunting like that because it's unnecessary, like wounding of an animal. And I lost sleep over it. And even like this year with a rifle, which I'm much more comfortable like with those, I can shoot a quarter. Well, maybe not a quarter anymore, but I can shoot a silver dollar at 500 yards.
Oh, sorry.
I was like hesitant on like the first deer that I shot this year. I'm like second guessing myself, like, do I really like, is this okay? Like, is this good? Like, I was in my head too much. And especially seeing the first deer I shot this year, didn't have good blood at first. So I was like, I was just pulling my hair. Like I was calling people. I was like, I need a dog in here. Like, there's no way that I messed this deer. And if it was the best shot you could have gotten on a deer. I was in my head, and within the first 20 yards, I called everybody I knew. Like, I need trackers. If I went 10 more yards, we would have seen it was definitely not gonna make it. But you know, very salty, very.
I got you.
That was like
so the lesson here is no matter the sport or hobby, you can have salty stories.
Oh yeah, like I've had people like their scopes have fallen off their rifle, or they'll drop it on their way in, and then what's another? Oh, they'll shoot a deer. The deer will travel like on private property, and you'll hear another boom, and well, whoever finishes off gets the trophy, basically. So
yeah,
it's yeah.
I know. Hunting wise, one of my favorite stories is with my dad. We went squirrel hunting, and in Michigan, there's three different types of squirrels. You have the regular, I guess you want to call it brown squirrel, then you have a black squirrel, and you have a red squirrel. At least in the area that I was in. I think there's also a spot that has fox squirrels too, but I can't remember.
Yeah,
Gray squirrels are more common.
In Michigan? So there,
Maybe.
I thought down here the gray squirrels were more common.
Well, gray squirrels down here are more common.
Yeah, but either way,
Yeah.
so
I've never heard of a black squirrel.
well, they were definitely up there. And my dad, I remember one time we went out hunting, and he specifically in order got one of each color. It was kind of cool. But I remember we were out there in the woods for forever, seemed like. But we saw a porcupine, we saw deer. At one point, we come across a little creek, and there was brook trout swimming in like an inch of water. Like, it was absolutely nuts.
It sounds
Monty,
really
welcome
weird,
in, buddy.
But
We're talking about the importance of sharing the sport of fishing. We kind of went off on a little bit of a rant and talk about how you can do it with any sport or hobby. We're doing a little more hunting right now, but we'll definitely bring it back around. But the idea is that and Monty, you know for sure, you doing what you do, and Monty Sheets is the owner of the Guard Dog Automatic Fish Hooker, which is another tool that I would have never met or found if it hadn't been actually for the gathering or for CatCon. I've met him through both of those, and I've had a chance to use them. My wife absolutely loves them, but it's just another tool that I would have never experienced or learned about or anything like that if it wasn't for these types of get-togethers.
so I have a little random knowledge about squirrels and fishing.
Okay.
Like, it kind of blends together.
Sure.
So MEPS, like the spinners,
Mhm.
they buy squirrel tails. So.
Oh yeah, I think you told me about that before, actually.
Did I?
I think so.
I'm not sure, but if they're in good quality, they don't pay very much. I think it's like 22 cents or something like that. But still,
Yeah.
like, if you're hunting and stuff like that, you don't really use the fur for very much. Like, I use the fur for. You got another one. I bet you he can catch fish.
You may, he actually caught a 40 what, 2-pounder yesterday?
42.
See?
This is Big Mike. Big Mike, while you're here, I'm going to suck you into the show, too. Come on, man. Get back over here. Why don't you explain your opinion about why it's important to share the sport of fishing with other people?
It was way too late to try to comprehend something like that.
Oh, come on. You can watch it on the replay.
I don't know. Keep the future of fishing going. If you don't pass on what you know, it's going to be forgotten.
Sounds awful like Randy's answer.
I've been watching the whole time.
You missed Randy and Lisa. They were here earlier.
I watched some of it. I was in the hospital.
I was say, how is your wife?
She's okay.
Okay. Issue with the leg, I guess.
Anxiety.
I got you.
No bites.
No, leg back.
We've had two bites since the show started.
Just a little bit ago.
Yep.
First green here.
Both the green one and your orange.
Yep. First green one here. Went slack, reeled down.
While Mike's here, I actually have a good story about how I met Mike, or what happened like the first time I met Mike.
Baby fishing line.
I'm down here at the dam, and I'm fishing for whatever, multi-species. So I have like 17-pound line on tops, right? Fishing for just whatever will bite. I'm catching fish. All of a sudden, this guy shows up, scraggly beard, kind of rough looking, with his giant 15-foot surf rod, strung up with a weed eater string. All right, this guy's got a 100-pound main line on his hand. It literally looks like weed eater string. Now I watched this guy put on a 14-inch crappie as bait, which perfectly legal to use in Tennessee to use sport fish as bait, as long as they're of the Creole size limit and you can prove it what size it was and whatnot. Obviously, can't cut them up per se and whatnot. But he put a live 14-inch crappie on this rod, and he cast it out. The way the dams are set, they have these little spillway holes. Most people fish the second, maybe the third hole, because that's the easiest ones to get to and be able to cast along the wall without casting it up on top of the wall. And this man launches this bait into the fifth hole, which is already impressive anyway. The fact that he was able to get it there without launching it up to the herons up on top of the dam. But he's sitting there, and this rod goes down. And I see this man. He has this rod, and he's leaning back, and he's within inches of the rocks. I don't know how he didn't bash his head open, but that line snapped, and it sounded like a cannon went off down there. that concrete wall and everything just echoed it. It made it, literally everything at the dam stopped other than the water rolling. As this man just somehow just sat on a rock because his line snapped. I still to this day do not understand how he didn't bust his head open and go flying back in the rocks when that went on. That's how I met Mike. So he's probably, but again, sharing the sport of fishing, meeting people, kind of what the gathering's about. I didn't meet him because of a get together, but I met him because we were in a commonly fished area. So even just going somewhere you've heard other people catch fish is a good way to meet people and again a good way to learn stuff. I've learned a lot from Mike, especially with using bigger rods and fishing distances from the bank because he's primarily a bank fisherman. I've learned some things about casting better, further distances. I've learned that even though in my head the lighter line makes more sense for more bites, it's not always necessary and it's not always the best option. There's going to be situations where different things can be better or worse, but it's to a certain extent. Obviously, it's personal preference for some things, right?
Right.
But a lot of the stuff is just conditionally based on what you're experiencing at the time. So, yeah, Zach, you're awful quiet, man. You got anything to add to this?
I'm just listening.
You have nothing to add at all. Well, I wouldn't know. All I can see is this fish tank.
A very, very dirty fish tank.
I mean, to be fair, it's better looking than him. No, I'm kidding. I love you, Zach.
Oh, gee. My co-hosts are going at each other's throats here.
What did you say?
What? I didn't say nothing.
You didn't say nothing.
What did you say?
What?
So, Mike, what about your favorite? We were talking about also the fact. Oh, excuse me. So we were also talking about the fact that with fishing, there's always going to be. You can remember the best day of fishing you ever had, and you're always going to remember the worst day of fishing you ever had. So, what is your best fishing day you ever had, and why was it the best?
I just sit down there at Raccoon Mountain and the rod bend over and I reeled down on the fish and then the fish almost pulled me in the river and ended up being a 94.4 pound blue cat.
94.4 pound blue cat. That's absolutely insane. All right. Well, what about your worst day of fishing, and why was it the worst? Well, it may be self-evident because one of the other stories I heard was pretty bad.
When I was trying to bomb cast 2 fishing rods and both of them broke.
Oh, man,
And now I use Mad Cats.
that's fair. Going back to what I was saying earlier, there's a lot of different brands of fishing rods. He's experienced a lot of them, both good, bad, and ugly. But he has his preferences now because of his experiences.
I mean,
I think it's most of us here.
Just for different reasons.
Must say I've broke some stuff. I've lost some stuff. I've gotten away with doing things I shouldn't have with certain stuff. Throwing 8-ounce weights on a medium rod and not snapping it in half instantly. But I
ounces and
on a rod that should have been able to handle it and it still broke. It happens.
I will say I've got a 12-foot rod sitting outside that's snapped. That's why I use Mad Cats on.
It definitely happens. And there's something to be said for industry standards, right? I mean, you're going to have some of these big brands that have been around forever. There's a reason why they got big in the first place. There's a reason why everybody knows about them. For one reason or another, whether it be the durability, whether it be the effectiveness of it. But in the end, it's always going to boil down to personal preferences. I own like 8 or 9 different brands of rods. I know Travis owns several different brands of rods.
yes, you do.
But even with with lures and stuff, inline spinners. I mean, this is directed towards Sam because he's like the lure collector. But you got Meps, you got Panther Martin, you got Blue Fox. Those are the 3 big brands.
Rooster tail.
Rooster Tail's in there too. Sorry, those are the 4 big brands of inline spinners. But pretty much every company makes an inline spinner of some sort of shape or fashion. But there's a reason why everybody prefers those brands.
Inline spinners are the only real lure that I actually show brand loyalty to. That's Meps.
And that's Meps, you said?
Yeah, that I've had the best. I don't know why, like Blue Cat or what is it, Blue Fox. I've just never had any luck on them. Rooster Tail, like people swear by them, and they just don't work for me. It's just always Meps.
Oddly enough, for me, with inline spinners, is species specific. I've caught more trout on Panther Martins than any of the rest of them. I've caught more bass, like white bass, yellow bass, well, and largemouth bass for that matter, on blue foxes. But I've caught more bluegill and like panfish species on rooster tails than anything else.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something everybody else experiences or not, but for me, it's very species specific on the inline spinners.
And it could be to the vibration of each.
Well, and they all do a little bit different, right? Different body shapes, different blade sizes, blade types. You know, I know Meps. Meps is kind of
build of them.
right. Meps is kind of known for their really, really big
Bell look.
bell look with the bucktail, basically, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Blue Fox is really known really for just that bullet weight shape and the giant blade.
Yeah.
Whereas Rooster Tail is more of a tube. Panther Martin's a smaller, I guess, a bell-shaped tube, usually. But they're much smaller blades and much smaller overall, typically. Their profile is much smaller.
Right. And your sizes, the size of the bait and the presentation of it is all different.
Right. But also Meps. I know Meps is the one that's kind of known for the minnow-shaped body spinner as well. I think they're the only company that makes that's popular, at least. I'm sure other companies have tried it.
Oh, I'm sure they have.
But that goes for anything. What?
Those are stupid effective too. It's one of those things I've had like the fish shape on Meps.
Yeah.
I had one of those in my tackle box. Like, oh yeah, that's not work.
Well, I mean, this goes back to matching the hatch, right? We talked about in the past.
Like, that and the jitterbug. My father-in-law was like, "Hey, just throw this on." I was like, "Why?
Okay.
Suck. I've never had one or caught a fish on it." He's like, "Have you ever used it?" I'm like, "Don't use logic with me."
Right.
And
but yeah, it's exposure is good, and like I said before, COVID really put that out for more people to get outside. And yes, it may have limited how many spots I can personally fish here in the Chattanooga area, because a lot more people are out there trying to get to the same bank spots, and it's kind of limited here on which is available. But
unless you have a big trail you can walk down a country mile.
Right. Unless you want to go way out of your way to learn new spots, then that like I said before, that's a potential con of teaching people to fish, right? Is you lose some of those spots. But again, there is so much gear I would have never bought, I would have never tried, techniques I never would have thrown. But because I've met people or read magazines or learned stuff,
seen the product
and used by other people, I mean,
yeah,
it makes a big difference for everybody, and there's always something to learn. And it's definitely a good thing. I don't see, other than that, like I said, that potential con. I don't really have anything else negative about sharing the sport of fishing, really.
This is completely random, but there's a few places I never would have known if I wasn't doing like this one other sport that I randomly dabble in. Is called geocaching. Some like they take you in just oddball. It's like a scavenger hunt with the GPS. The people hide like a peanut butter jar or something with like little knickknacks in it, but you see like the coolest places. And I have found some of the best fishing places, like along rivers and stuff like that. I was like, huh, I did not know this was public. Like,
that's fair.
Like things like that. Like you might have to hike like a half a mile to get this thing, and you might hate your life, but I did that one time, and I was like, huh, I'm going to come back. And I just happened to have a fishing pole in my car. I caught like 4 brook trout in a half an hour. It was a great day. So just a different way of possibly finding new fishing spots too.
I've been there too. It's a good way, like just exploring is a good way to do anything.
That was a very dirty tank.
Yeah, you need to clean that.
These right here is the reason it's looking the way it's looking. It was clear, it cycled, then I put 6 new Cory cats in, and now it looks like this.
Catch a baby carp and throw it down there. Should clean it up. You might not have any fish left, but you know, sacrifices.
Kim, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Sorry we didn't get to see you this year either. She missed the gathering this year, but she was here last year. Helped out get bait for people and whatnot. Glad you're here, and thanks for the kind words. I appreciate that.
And
Burrito was back in here.
The fishing
Welcome back in
hobby
here.
is what got me into fish tanks.
Say it again.
The fishing hobby is what got me into fish tanks.
I mean, that's fair. I would say that probably is the case for me too.
I can't have a fish tank just because I'm like, I ate your cousin one time.
Monty said, "Friends, I didn't even know about the catfishing community until a year and a half ago. I have learned so much from somebody in the community, and blessed to meet as many new friends. Thanks go out to so many. You're not wrong, man. Like I said, a lot of the people I fish with now, I've met through either doing YouTube or from gatherings and places like this or Facebook groups. Like I said, Bobcat was the first one out of the catfishing community that I've met, and I met him through Facebook. Because I was asking him specifically about a spot, and he messaged me, said, "Hey, you want to go fishing one day?" And been a lifelong relationship ever since. But then obviously I met Travis here at the gathering, met Zach at the gathering. Sam I actually met through video gaming and found out he liked fishing, so then we hit it off real well. So it's just
We never play video games together anymore. Like you, Ben.
no, we really don't. All we really talk about now is talk about fishing.
And we don't even do that together.
No, we have, but it's like once a year maybe.
No,
I don't know what Mike's doing here, guys.
Like 3 years ago.
About to have a heart attack from the sound of it. Hey, Matt, want to be outdoors? Lean down a little bit. You're too tall. All right, this is Matt from Want to Be Outdoors. While you're here, I'm going to suck you into the topic. Why is it important to share the sport of fishing?
Why is it important?
Yes.
That's an open-ended question.
Well, that's fine, but do you have an answer for it?
Very
Actually,
much
an answer?
so.
Share the sport of fishing.
Try not to say our youngins need to keep it going or the sport's going to die. Because that's been...
To bring people closer together.
There you go. Make more friends.
Keep morale with, other people other strangers, people that you just met, or, you show you have something in common with somebody. It brings everybody closer together.
All right. And then on top of that, we were talking about how you're always going to remember the best day of fishing you ever had, and you're always going to remember the worst day of fishing you ever had. What was your best day?
Every day I fish.
Every day you fish. All right. I like this guy's answer here. Now, what about your worst day of fishing? What was the worst day, and why was it so bad?
Worst day of fishing?
Yep.
I have a bad memory, so I'm not really sure. Worst day of fishing? Probably when I'm not fishing.
I really like this guy's answers. Short and to the point here.
And
Now-
his YouTube channel name says it all.
Want to be outdoors. Yep, he wants to be outside.
outdoors.
Yep. Now, I will say this. I heard that last night you had some visitors in your tent. Did you want to elaborate on that story?
Last night or the couple nights before?
Something about losing all your snacks.
Oh yeah, some raccoons. I was describing what food I had in my cooler, deer steaks and stuff like that. And Big Mike had decided to make the comment, with the raccoons around here, they're probably not in there anymore. So we turned around and looked, and there were raccoons coming out of my tent, and went up there, and they had stole all my food, besides the deer steaks and everything, even the mustard,
Even the mustard.
tortillas,
Jeez.
brats, rice. So yeah, vengeance on raccoons shall come.
That's the worst day of fishing. I guess there we go. That could be your worst day.
Worst day.
Worst day. I went fishing and I came home. My snacks were gone.
That could be my worst day.
Could be. All
I
right.
would like to have been a raccoon right then, man. I'm always hungry.
Zach said he'd eat a rat. Heard him and I said he'd eat a raccoon. He didn't care.
Gross.
Raccoons robbed us right in front of y'all.
Yeah, that's what we were just talking about.
And just now, like they got a bait.
Just now?
While I was gone, I just got that.
Oh, well. Apparently, while we were doing the show, the raccoon stole all the bait. All right.
The masked bandits.
Nature's ninjas, I always call them.
We've had headlines.
But yeah,
Back in this chair, my damn legs working down watching all that.
the gathering. Sharing the outdoors. Sharing the sport.
That's Mike. He said to put him in the bucket.
Danielle said, no, not the raccoons. They are innocent with a heart. She's a friend of mine. Her and her husband are staying here as well. They're not here for the gathering. They're actually in the process of moving houses. But, yeah. They are definitely troublemakers. Innocent or not, they are still troublemakers. But here's what it is.
It is.
We had, I think there was 4 while I was packing the tent up last night because Josie wasn't cooperating, so we didn't stay the night. And I was packing everything up, and there was 4 that were just darting across the campsite, grabbing the snacks my daughter dropped. It was actually quite amusing to see. But literally every time I take one thing in the truck, turn around, another one went by. It was interesting to say the least.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, Zach, Sam, you got anything else to add?
Go fishing.
Go fishing. Hey, Aaron, do you want to come chime in and tell us your best and worst day of fishing? Don't believe that for 1 second. That is catfish regulators.
I try to stay out of trouble.
He fishes on the dock with LG bass. And they go catfishing a lot. He can talk a lot too. Believe it or not, he's just chilling out in the chair back there. I don't blame him. It's definitely a good day for that. It's nice.
He's on vacation, having a great time.
Well, then I'm surprised I ain't heard him chime up if he's back here.
What happened?
The only time he chimed up was when he said, "Hey, I can't hear Sam," but he forgot to turn his volume up. So it's all good.
Tell Zach if he wants to hear it there, I gotta say he can show up next year and meet me.
Did you catch that, Zach?
Oh, I heard him. It's kind of hard not to hear that big mouth sitting back
Hey,
there.
Mike.
All right, if I catch that rod and reel, I'll get to show you what it looks like as it goes home with me.
No, you're right, Zach. You'll never get to live it down. Monty, I hope you are able to make it here next year, man. It's definitely been fun. Hopefully next year the weather's a little more cooperating. Well, not that it ended up being bad. It ended up being fine. But it definitely, the forecast was ugly. That's for sure.
It was calling for torrential downpours and
Thunderstorms and all
severe
that good stuff.
thunderstorms.
So hopefully next year it'll be a little more promising and more people stick around. But if you guys are considering getting into the sport of fishing, make sure you talk to people, make some friends, all that good stuff. It makes a big difference.
No, you can get it out of my truck, Mike.
It's definitely something you can learn a lot about. It's definitely not something you can get a lot of good memories from. With that being said, Sam just had a power outage, so he's out. So he said goodbye through a text message to everybody. If Zach, if you got nothing else to say, if Travis, you got nothing else to say, I think
I'm good, brother. I think we're invite me to the show tonight.
Yeah, I think we're gonna go ahead and close it down. But for like I said, final words: go fishing, learn something, meet people. If you guys haven't already, the Bait Tank has its own YouTube channel now. The link is at the top of the chat. But it's literally at the Bait Tank, all one word. Please consider going over and subscribing because we won't be hosting this on all the channels in the near future. It's going to change soon to just that channel. So if you guys want to catch any more episodes of it, make sure you check that out. Appreciate each and every one of you. See you guys again in a couple weeks. And I'm Anthony. Thanks again to Travis for showing up, and Zach, and all for everybody else coming in. Burrito, Randy, Matt. Appreciate each and every one of you. You guys are awesome. But until next time, take it easy and tight lines.